name is Chris Steinhardt. I'm the chair of the MIT Enterprise Forum here in San Diego. I'm also a partner at Kenobi Martins. Kenobi has been a sponsor of MIT Enterprise Forum since it's been formed here in San Diego, and we are always very pleased and entertained by the programs that this organization holds. Tonight will be no exception, I promise you. I've seen the previews. It's terrific. We're going to be talking about LeadCrunch, and Owen Hyde, the CEO, will be talking about his business-to-business platform solution. A little bit about Kenobi Martins before we go on. We're a intellectual property law firm. We're a boutique, but we're a huge boutique. There's 300 of us, and we're up and down the West Coast, as well as in New York City and Washington, D.C. This is our largest branch office. We're headquartered in Irvine. This branch office has some 60 professionals, and we've been in business here in San Diego for close to 40 years. So anything we can do to assist you to increase the value of intellectual property, we'd be happy to do so. And with that, I'll turn it over to Olin.
Thank you so much for coming out tonight. We have great turnout. This is fantastic. It's a real thrill and honor to be here tonight. So hopefully we inspire some interesting thoughts and are able to have a great conversation about what it's like well, first off, we're here to solve problems. And the problems that we face are the problems of being a hyper-growth startup company. And I don't think our problems are a lot different than other hyper-growth companies, but we'll get into the nuance of that. Before I get started, I'd like to acknowledge two very special people. First and foremost, my wife, Lydia Rivera, who's the smart one in the family. Lydia is a program manager for Northrop Grumman in their drone area, so she's the one that does the robotic side of the house. And my chief of staff, Raj Palasamudram, who's in the back, and Raj will be taking notes and helping us document what we learn here today. So LeadCrunch is a company that I started in 2013 with a gentleman by the name of Sanjeet Singh. Sanjeet and I were both angel investors in an online dating app. So we like to say two middle-aged married guys met online dating. And we really enjoyed really respected rather, how we dealt with adversity. That particular investment had its ups and downs, and we got to see how we both handled that situation. And at the time, I had sold my last company to a group out of Switzerland, and I had a 2-year earn-out, and won't do that again. But after the 2-year earn-out, I went and started this business with Sanjeet. And let's tell the story of LeadCrunch. So first off, let's set the context of what the problems we're facing right now. In a hyper-growth company, the biggest challenges are finding the right capital, which I don't think is worth going into tonight because I don't think we have a lot of VCs in the audience. But probably a more productive conversation would be finding the right people. Currently, it takes us about 250 applicants to get one hire. Only 1 out of 77 engineers pass our code test. So we've grown from 7 people to about to 29 people today in less than a year. And if you do the math, we've looked at more than 10,000 candidates. We're looking for people that are T-shaped, broad intellectual interest, curious, grit, determination, but highly specialized and masterful in one area. So we'd like to know how we can improve recruiting. We typically find the best talent in the Bay Area, New York, and Chicago. And as a result, we actually have put our sales team in Chicago. And that's principally because we've been recruiting salespeople, or salespeople have been quitting competitors and joining us. And surprisingly, it's difficult to get everyone to move to San Diego. Staying in San Diego is a challenge because of all of our money has come from the Bay Area. And all capital is local. We're very committed to we have a culture of commitment, and we're committed to each other, but also we are committed to the community, and we want the community to thrive. And we'd like to have some insights on stories of other people of how they've kept fast-growing large companies in San Diego. What LeadCrunch does is we solve a very big problem. Business-to-business marketers today do not have data-driven tools to find new customers. What they typically do is go out and say, what industry are you in? How big are you? What's your head count? Where are you located? We call these filters. I think we would all agree these filters are not drivers of demand. They're not first principles of why someone would become a customer. After marketers realize this, they say, hey, there's 5,000 marketing technology platforms. A lot of them do things like intent marketing or data stack analysis. We call these single point solutions. And they try them. And there's 5,000 of them because none of them have won the market. Very few of them actually generate positive ROI. So then marketers fall back on what they know how to do. Brute force. Telemarketing, email marketing, I've seen nodding heads, just hammer it hard, and that gets really expensive. So what we do is lookalike marketing powered by artificial intelligence to find the right audience, engage that audience with relevant, meaningful content, and then nurture them until they show intent. And when they show intent, we give them to our customer. We call this a customer creation technology, and the results are pretty amazing. Our customers typically accelerate their conversion rate between 300 and 1,000%. How it works? Give us 25 or more of your best customers. It automatically goes out, looks at many terabytes of data, now approaching a petabyte of data. It finds a lookalike audience. It tells us what content is going to resonate with every single target in that audience. We use your content to outreach to each target. When that target starts to show intent, we give it back to you. You put it into your sales and marketing funnel. We believe customer creation technologies such as ours are the next evolution in marketing technology. Sales automation was the first. Salesforce won that game. Now captures 72% of the entire market capitalization. The next evolution was marketing automation. Marketo won that game. Next was data management platforms. No one really won that game. They all got bought while they were scaling rapidly. BlueKai, Crux, and so forth all got bought by big tech. And a lot of them got pretty big before they got bought, but almost all of them were north of $1 billion exits. There's about 6 of them. We believe the next evolution is customer acquisition technology such as ours. We believe 3 things that are a little bit unusual in our world. First and foremost, there is no single source of truth. Truth must be derived from many different sources, and one of our key skills is how we stitch disparate data together to get a comprehensive view of the customer. Secondly, we believe that every new customer should inform your business. Why? Because markets are changing faster and more dynamically now than ever. Third, the way companies look at markets must change. Getting back to that old silly view of what industry do you sell to or how big are your customers? Imagine a world where you could actually look at the attributes that drive demand. Are you an early adopter? Are you a late adopter? Are you heavy in top management? Are you easy to reach? These are the type of attributes you can't look up in a database, but these are exactly the type of things that we find. Why now? Well, for starters, if you're a chief marketing officer, you got a very short life expectancy, and it's getting shorter. The tenure for CMOs now among the Fortune 1000 is down to 42 months, and it's declining faster than any of the others. It's actually the shortest of all C-level executives. Why? Wall Street values growth 4 times higher than profitability. So if you get 1% more profit, the guy that's got 1% more growth is 4 times more valuable. CEOs are demanding growth, and if you can't deliver it, they're going to replace you. Second thing is there's a lot of data now. Finally, there's a threshold of data we can actually go out and find and do interesting things with, and the AI technologies have matured enough to the point where we can actually do cool stuff. Wow, this slide didn't show up. Customer creation comes in a couple flavors. I'm going to draw with my pointer over here single signal systems. These are systems like Data Nyze, which will tell you, hey, what technology stack do you use? Or 6 cents is their intent to buy, or Bombora. These typically look at one signal and try to derive whether there's demand or not. None of them are doing particularly well, and so there is a whole class of multi-signal processing MarTech companies like Everstring or Radius. These have typically raised a lot of money, where they stitch together several different signals to figure out whether there's demand. There's only 2 of us that have taken the jump into the next generation. Lead Genius and ourselves are the only ones that stitch all available signals together. Lead Genius also does outreach like us, where they'll actually go out and reach. But unlike Lead Genius, our technology, DeepFind platform, is patent pending. We actually beat Palantir and IBM Watson to win a contract with the US Navy for targeting technologies. This is actually the genesis of our company. And what DeepFind does is it combines all of the signals, combines all of the outreach, and then learns every cycle. It's a closed loop outreach program where it continually gets smarter as you go forward. We've been very fortunate. We've raised about $2 million to date. Our investors and board have more than $20 billion in exits if we do not count Tesla. That skews the numbers up a little bit. Our chairman of the board, we're very proud to have recruited Dave Toff, who is the founder of Net Ratings. He just exited TubeMogul for $617 million, and he was on the board of NextTag, which had a $1.7 billion exit. In addition, we've gotten some other interesting investors, such as the former CEO of Goldman Sachs. We've got a bunch of patents pending. Most importantly, our very first customer quit his job to join our company. Our second investor quit his job to become our chief science officer. He's the guy that invented the algorithm that protects your credit card from fraud. One of our largest investors is the guy that invented the FICO score and was the CEO of FICO when they went public. And 5 of our competitors that we've beaten joined us. We're at about a 5.4 million run rate in our first full year. We've barely scratched the surface. We think that we're just at the beginning of something. We believe we have sustainable 20% compound monthly growth. This gets a little bit technical here, but we look a lot at our customer acquisition costs. So it takes us about 1.5 months to pay back the cost of acquiring a new customer. Another way of looking at that is every dollar we spend on customer acquisition generates $2.5 of revenue while we're growing at 30% per month. If we slowed down growth, we'd become very profitable. Benefits, get faster sales. You get an idea of who your customers are so you can customize your outreach, build the right content for them. You get a better product roadmap. Let me take a little sidebar and tell a story. One of our customers is a very well-known point of sale vendor. They won't let us use their name, but they're one of the challengers. They gave us a list of their best customers, and we said this machine discovered that their best customers serve Bloody Marys on Sunday mornings in restaurants. They knew their bars and restaurants were a good customer, but they didn't know why. And we don't know why Bloody Marys is such an important thing. When we took this to the chief marketing officer, she said, wow, my sales team should have figured that out, and they didn't. If they're serving Bloody Marys on a Sunday morning, they have a different inventory control system than other restaurants. Why don't we build product integrations into those inventory control systems? So we're actually able to provide value beyond sales and marketing and actually to the product. We have about 5 empirical case studies now. Is that right, Raj? And these are studies that actually define the economic value that we provide, comparing before and after. And you can see that some of our customers we can talk about are some of the biggest names in tech. We have 116 customers to date. Our long-term vision is to make every business interaction meaningful. This is our North Star of what we at the company build our culture around, is cutting out noise, creating meaning. The growth drivers is we've started by building a very senior team at the top. If you looked at our company, you would not think that we'd only raised $2 million. You'd think, wow, these guys must have raised 10 and went out and bought talent. So we are a little older and a little bit more experienced than most other startups. We are very scientific. Everything in our company, from design to execution, is driven by the null hypothesis and A/B testing. And we actually are one of the first companies in our space that have built a customer success team. Does everyone here know the difference between customer success and customer service? Okay, one person. So it's actually customer success is kind of a new thing. Customer service, you call and you say, hey, Owen, I got a problem. You say, I'm sorry, Rocky, I'm going to fix that for you. Customer success calls, and Jason says, hey, Owen, I got a problem. Like, Jason, you're using it wrong. Let me tell you how you're using it right. Let me be the agent of change for your organization. And that's worked really well for us. If you're familiar with a challenger sale, that was one of the big influences for us to actually go to customer success orientation. Our business model is to land and expand. We land with technology-enabled services. They're bought as a campaign. We call these LeadCrunch campaigns, or LCAM. These are sold on a cost per lead basis, and this is pretty much 99% of our revenue right now. We're moving to a software as a service subscription, and that's our expansion. We released a very alpha version of our SaaS product on October 16th. Challenge to the team was, let's make a sale before the end of October. On October 30th, we closed a $360,000 annual recurring revenue contract with one of our customers on this product, of which $30,000 a year is dedicated just to the analytics piece. So we're moving in that direction. Almost all of our competitors, I think that's one of our next slides, have moved in that way. Let me go through a little bit of our metrics. Any questions before I go into metrics? Okay, you look like you're awake, so we'll keep going. We are a GAAP accrual basis. You know, when we sign a contract, we call that a booking. When we deliver product, we call that revenue. When we pay us, we call that a receipt. And our bookings growth has been, it's pretty easy to grow down here at 100% a quarter. It gets a little harder to grow at 50% a quarter when we get out here. We actually believe we can accelerate growth by raising more capital. Our biggest constraint to growth right now is capital. We did $450,000 in bookings in October, and we're on pace to break $500,000 this month and $600,000 the following month. Our revenue growth, this is what I'm proud of, is the blue are rebookings. The green are brand new customers. And you can see 12-month trailing revenue right now is at around 1.4 million at about 22% monthly growth. We'll close this year just over 2 million in 12-month trailing. Our revenue efficiency, this is where we take how much revenue we do in, say, Q2 and divide it by how much it cost us to capture those customers in Q1. That's this 2.5 number. And you can see this broken out between rebooking customers, which are way more efficient than new customers. And there's a third line there that got lost in translation. There's a third line here that got lost in translation here too. But this is our all customers, and you can barely see this outline of how the payback period is much lower for rebookings than it is for new bookings. This is actually my favorite slide. My favorite slide because this guy raised $158 million. This one raised $30 million. This one raised $100 million. This one raised $130 million. This one raised $20 million. That one raised $2 million. And what this is showing you is how much revenue we generate per dollar that we've raised against how much revenue do we generate per employee. You want to be out here, not down here. So we love to show this. Sales metrics, we believe as a sales technology company, we should have pretty good metrics. 35 days from first touch of a salesperson to a closed deal, 39% win rate from initial touch, $13,000 win for the first order, and it costs us about $13,000 to get it. What gets interesting over here is on rebookings. 85% of the people that book with us the first time book with us within 90 days, and the revenue expansion is 232%. Takes our average deal size up to about $43,000, and our CAC drops down to about $4,500. So if you blend all of this together and you weight it, it takes us about a month and a half to pay back, It's about $33,000 average deal size that lasts for about 2.5 months for us to service it, and it costs us about $7,500 to land the account. So again, if we wanted to be profitable, we could just slow down growth. These numbers get really juicy. But what's really interesting is the more we charge up here, the larger we go, the better these numbers get. And that's what we learned. We stopped doing the $200, we actually started at $200 a month, and we've gone up from there. Logo retention over time, you can see the more recent vintages are performing better than the older vintages. And lifetime value over time by vintage, you can see the steeper curves are the shorter curves, which means, hey, we're getting better at selecting the right customers over time. Our financials, we expect to grow a $100 million business in the next 4 years. It gets a little silly out here because it's just so far in advance to project. Our original plan for this year was $1.5 million, and we're going to do over $2 million. We're going to beat this estimate as well. And that gets us, there's about, 30 to 50,000 customers. So we don't have to capture much of the market to get to be pretty big. And this is back to our challenges. So that's my show. I'll stick with it.
Olin, thank you. I'm Seth Newberry. I'm going to be your moderator this evening. So what I'd like to do is ask our panelists to come up. And as you come up, I'd like you just to say a word about yourself that might not be on the biographies, but all of you here have their biographies. And so what's going to happen now is that the panelists here all have expertise that's related to Olin's area. And so I think they're going to begin their analysis and critique of the presentation. And then what I'm going to do is also look out in the audience and make sure that we get questions for you so that you have an opportunity to quiz Olin as well.
I guess I'm first. How's it going, everybody? My name is Angie Gazecki. I'm the CEO and founder at Business Apps. Something that's not on the sheet, I'm getting married in April. I enjoy surfing. I don't know. What are you guys going to say? So I moved my company from San Francisco to San Diego. I think that's why a lot of people know me. Located in La Jolla, probably one of the best decisions that I've made business-wise for my company. Still growing at double digits every single year. Yeah, really excited to be here, so thanks for having me.
So I'm UConn Palmer, founder of FieldLogix. We provide a fleet and driver management system for companies, so we help them get their employees where they need to be in a timely manner and also help them monitor what they did. We were actually, or I was on the other side of the table last year, almost exactly a year to the day. So
why there's scars?
Yeah, right. So I'll have some empathy for you. I'll try to be nice.
I'm Kathleen Glass, and my company is Oinkadomio, and I'm really geeked out over the marketing promise of what you do, Olin, so that's partly why I'm here. Something that may not be on the sheet that's kind of an interesting bit of trivia about my background is I worked with both Steve Bayafor and Krishna Gopinathan at HNC on the Falcon product, so I actually know how those neural networks work.
Awesome.
I'm Jason Knapp. I was co-founder of a B2B ad tech company in LA. We had a very successful exit and went on to be a CXO, a chief product officer and chief customer officer in MarTech and ad tech, as well as for MySpace, and worked with clients in Silicon Valley and New York banks and Comcast and high-tech companies. Something else to know about me, my kids are, my older daughter is getting ready to go to college, and that's the biggest challenge in our family right now.
So I think what we'll do is ask our panelists to sort of give an assessment of what what they saw out of the presentation and how their experience can help Olin face the challenges that LeadCrunch is facing right now. So I don't know if you want to just start up or if you want me to call on one of you to give it a start.
Well, so I'm interested in your, so you said that it takes you interview about 250 candidates before you select one.
Well, we look at 250. We try not to interview all 250. We are, you know, as Kathleen knows, we're a very analytical company, so we monitor. We've actually got pretty good, what I would call funnels for candidates. So, you know, we get great candidates off of Angel List. You know, we do a lot of on-campus recruiting. We're very fortunate to have a very close relationship with UCSD and Stanford and Berkeley. We're currently doing a study with Stanford's Graduate School of Engineering that is actually modeling the San Diego economy. And so that gives us access to great students, usually they're grad students. We have a robust intern program. Raj actually was an intern just 3-4 months ago. He had sold his first company before he came to us, so that was pretty cool that he had an exit. Raj would be an example of a success story when we've had several of these where people joined us as on a team of interns, and we take the best and bring them on full time.
And you're managing that internally, so you're not using an outside company.
Yeah, we, in other companies, this is my 8th startup that I've either been the founder, co-founder, or very early employee. What I find is that my partner and I, Sanjeet, we really want to create this culture of commitment where it's not transactional. So the adage of hire very slowly so you don't have to fire fast. And so what we find is that the most challenging part about this is finding the right candidates, and we don't believe that we can outsource that to somebody that's transactionally compensated. We have hired a recruiting firm out of the Bay Area that charges by the hour, and we've had pretty good luck with that. I think they're called Sourcify. Is that it? So Sourcify, we were in the Bessemer Ventures incubator, and Bessemer Ventures, if you don't know, is it's a ginormous, principally B and C round type of VC. They recommended Sourcify to us.
I'll go next. I actually, I looked at some of your job descriptions that were on the website, and one of the things, and I'm actually really glad that you brought up the customer success example and how important that is, because that is one of the, with a SaaS company, that's one of the, what I call the 3 legs of the stool, because it's sales, marketing, and customer success. Because if you don't have customer success, you're not going to retain or renew those customers. So
right.
It's the critical position. So what's kind of puzzling, and so this is some of my advice to you, is really remember that you need to position on your website. Your website should be 50% for your investors and 50% for your hires, really. So, who cares about the product at this point, right? Because that's what you're trying to explain is you have a culture. You're talking about your challenge of bringing people here. Chris and I were talking about, we were joking outside. It's like, can't you just bring the people from Chicago and New York out here and stand by the pond in November? I mean, how hard should this be? When you're talking about economies where the cost of living shouldn't be that much different either. So I think that you really need to be looking at what you need to show as your culture and what makes your hires want to commit to come here. One of the job descriptions that I pulled for customer success, honestly, I read it. I had no clue what this person was supposed to do all day. And it didn't sound like that critical piece of the infrastructure and ensuring the customer experience and the retention that you talked about and you kind of shared in your presentation. So I would definitely spend some time looking at your job descriptions, look at the consistencies. Like I looked at Crunchbase, your leadership team, and LinkedIn. I couldn't actually tell who was supposed to be CEO among the 3 of those. So you've got some things you need to clean up to make you look stable, to make you look like, yeah, I want to commit. These guys are going to grow. They got their shit together, and I want to move from New York into November.
That is both very fair and very actionable. So yeah, we we move fast and we break things, and along the way, I think inconsistencies on our web presence is certainly a valid criticism and one that we can fix.
Yeah, cool.
I think I think these are great points about the website and stuff. We certainly always found that that was important. You're 1 out of 77 passed the code test. I don't find that particularly surprising. In LA, Silicon Valley, I don't think that's particularly different. We did a lot of hiring in LA and Orange County, and we'd have similar results. We did use a testing suite as part of the application process.
Which testing suite did you use? Because we built our own, and you always have to be freshening those things up, and it takes a lot of energy.
You know, I don't remember it off the top of my head. I should have brought that, but I'll find it and send it to you.
Yeah, that'd be great, because the tests that we use, I've got so many. I used to sit into every single code test because I really wanted to. Early on, I'm a geek. I wrote my first line of code when I was like 12. So although I am prohibited from writing code in this company now because my skills are so, yeah, it's bad if I'm writing code. But I really wanted to see how people think, because I think that building core engineering skills is probably the hardest first step is to build magic. You must have magicians, and it's really hard to identify those. So I got great stories on code tests. One of my favorite is this young man that one of our investors brought to us and said, I think he's going to be a really good fit. And this person doesn't have particularly strong social skills. And he looked at the code test and said to me, that's not fair. I can't take this. I'm like, oh, this is going to be a short interview. Okay, it's over. He's like, I know the answer. I've seen this before. Like, how did you see it? I mean, we cooked this up out of thin air. And so he actually, there's 4 levels. Level 1's a fail, level 2's the first pass, and only 1 out of all the people that have ever taken it has gotten a level 4, and that's one of our data scientists that works for Steve Biafor. But this guy was 23 years old and he got a level 3, which is pretty stunning, beating a lot of PhD candidates that took the test.
I think it's great that you guys do that. We found that to be really effective as well. The test suite is probably a good way to do like a preliminary thing, and then once they get through that, then you're going to want to do what you're doing by hand.
So one of the things I was a big fan of, like, looking for personality attributes to shape the team. Obviously, we want diversity, both extrinsic diversity, what people's experiences are and their personalities, but also intrinsic diversity, such as how they're born, man, woman, different races, and so forth. So there's a well-written article in Harvard Business Review about D2 diversity. We were using Myers-Briggs personality indicator, and it failed miserably. Did not backtest well against what we knew. We were using plum.io, and it worked for a couple candidates and got a couple things really wrong. Did you have any experience with personality type, looking at dimensions of personality to build teams?
I actually included that for my team, especially for product people. I wasn't using that for the engineers. But I just used it as something to kind of prompt questions and discussion during the interview process, as opposed to something that would pass-fail. I don't necessarily think you could use something like that to decide whether somebody's a good candidate or not. I do have kind of a funny story about it, which is that one of my direct reports, one of my VPs, he objected strongly to the idea of using a personality test as part of the selection process. And he, to prove his point, he went and took the test and came back and said, here's my results. Well, he had managed to make it so that he got an absolute score on every personality dimension at one end of the scale or the other, because he had decided there was a right answer to each one of those. And I was like, you're an insane person, I would never hire you.
That's why you don't give it to the engineers either.
Right.
Yeah, they'll just try to trick it.
I'd actually like to put some of this conversation into perspective. You showed $2 million this year, going to $9 million next year.
Correct.
So, and we're talking now about recruiting and staffing. What kind of people are you going to have to hire in order to get to that $9 million?
Yeah, that's what I
Well, we hire ahead. So we actually built our company to the state we're at now with basically 1 sales guy and 1 VP of sales, and we've expanded our sales team now to 9 people. We believe we have the key account executives that will get us up to $1 million a month in revenue in less than 12 months, which will get us to past that 10, we're $9-10 million next year. So there's 2 questions that you're thinking: the type of people and how do we get them? Well, the way we got them already is we rated competitors. So we model everything. Our chief scientist is a big fan of modeling everything. And so we went out, and our VP of sales was the #1 sales director in the industry. And we put him in the crosshairs, and we flew out to Chicago and recruited him. Our #1 sales guy has been with us the longest. He was with a very well-respected competitor. The next 3 AEs, account executives, are all people that we've recruited out of the industry based on competitors that we respect.
So the question was, who do you need to hire in order to get to the 9 million? Is the answer, we've got them already?
The answer is we've got the salespeople already. We don't necessarily have the infrastructure to support sales. For instance, we have no marketing.
I was going to say, you have no marketing.
We have no marketing. And if you don't believe we don't have marketing, look at the quality of the design in our deck, right? We are not pretty. We think that marketing actually adds a lot of value. So we would like, one of the first uses of funds is to accelerate our growth with marketing. Because right now, the way we grow is we eat our own very tasty dog food. So we generate lookalike audiences for ourselves, and we follow our own prescription. We think that there's a lot of value in marketing that we could do, and so that's who we need to hire.
I have a quick question. So would you define your company probably as in the growth stage? You passed product market fit, you found your customer. I think all that's pretty obvious.
I would say we are not at growth stage yet. I would say we have not nailed product market fit. I don't think in this space that's this large you have product market fit until you're probably doing something like 30, 40 million a year. The reason is it's a very big space, and our land and expand strategy has proven that we can land with on-demand. We have not proven that we can expand with SaaS. So really that's the next big business challenge, and we have lots of ideas that we've tested pretty thoroughly, but we don't have a SaaS product. Our SaaS product's been in the market now 3 weeks. It's got 1 customer. That's not product market fit.
Yeah, I had a question on that. And so you were talking about the sales team. Were the sales team that you have today, are they the type that are going to sell the original product, or have you designed a scalable SDR team, or even a model like HubSpot, which is selling through agencies, which might be a really interesting way, for you to get more breadth for the SaaS model? So which, had you thought about the SaaS model when you were building out the sales team originally?
So it's great points. Yes to everything that you just said. About 35% of our revenue right now comes through agencies. When IBM Watson generates a lead, I wish I could make this up, this is actually true. IBM Watson Marketing calls Ogilvy and Mather, and Ogilvy and Mather calls LeadCrunch. I can't make that up. So we actually generate leads for IBM Watson, although IBM Watson for marketing has wonderful television commercials and we don't. We're feeding their pipeline. So the better question is, can our sales team that is selling on demand sell SaaS? One of our salespeople we recruited is out of Salesforce, who has experience on both sides, selling SaaS for Salesforce and for one of our competitors. And so we're really looking to him for leadership. My business partner, Sanjeet, is unbelievably good at this. So, we are betting that we have the core team to understand how to run the experiments. We're greatly inspired by Justin Mayer's book, Traction, where we split test a bunch of funnels to see which work. Understanding that everything follows the law of shitty click-throughs, that everything decays to 0 at some point. So the answer is yes to agencies. Yes, we have people that can sell SaaS. Yes, I have sold SaaS. Yes, my business partner is great at selling SaaS. But that's the beginning of a very long road. One of the reasons we did this business model is taking SaaS to market is so expensive. You can't even think about doing it for $2 million.
Yeah, it's like a 1-to-1 right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So along the same line, as you go to SaaS, how much of serving a customer, like doing the lookalike modeling, that kind of thing, is data scientists doing hand work or playing with the modeling tool, and how much of it is just you drop in the 25 leads and it spits out the list? Because if it's it's sort of asking the question of, is this a really good business, or is this like a platform that a venture capitalist is going to be really interested in because it's just going to be able to scale?
Yeah, that makes a difference in your funding, yeah.
It's B. There's no data scientists playing with, they play with results, of course, to improve the models. But, we are, this month we'll do 400,000 of leads, priced at an average price point of about $40. 2 data scientists are not generating 10,000 leads. That I assure you that it is a platform that you drop. I mean, again, it comes back to our experience in the military. In the use case for the technology prior to being used in remember, LeadCrunch was a repurposing of military technology. The use case in the military is we have open source intel. Is that unknown contact a fishing boat, a group of refugees, or the bad guy? Do we push the red button or not, and why? So the technology was designed from the very onset to create a unique model for every target to explain and predict behavior. And so it's very much a platform.
Okay. I have a few questions. So a lot of what you're saying to me, it sounds like the perfect business. You have the perfect team. The challenges that you're facing are pretty straightforward. I agree, overhauling, the brand messaging, really solidifying, who you are in the market in terms of, brand messaging. I think we spoke about this last time on the phone. But if you had to define like your biggest 3 challenges, like what would they be? Is there like a weakness that you have as a CEO?
Yeah, I think the weakness I have as a CEO is raising capital. This is the first time I've ever raised venture capital or outside capital. Every other business I've been in has been bootstrapped. And it's a different skill set to raise capital than it is to go out and build a real business. So I would say that's my biggest single weakness as a CEO. The other challenge is, again, what we said is that, recruiting is always going to be a challenge. I'm not sure it's comforting, but at least there's company in misery with what Jason's saying, because I have a lot of respect for what you've done, scaling businesses. And if you had the same problems in recruiting, then they're universal problems. There are some real advantages to being in San Diego. One of them is retention. People are very loyal to us. We have lost only one person, and that was in the early days when we ran out of money. It's good reason to lose somebody. Those days are behind us, and that was a co-founder that just couldn't weather the storm. But everybody on our team, my goal personally is to have everyone that joins our company vest after 4 years. And so far, everybody that has made the 4-year mark has vested.
I think one of the differences with like Silicon Valley or here is in Silicon Valley, the developers are used to riding the stock option train, and getting payouts. So they may be more willing to take risks, but that formula could certainly apply here as well. It's just that it takes more education to get people to do that sort of thing. And I was going to make the point that to do that, to get that kind of investment and get people that interested, you really need to explain the unfair advantage that you have. I don't think that's one of the things that really came across. Yeah. And as part of what I was getting at with the SaaS question is why is your company, when you get these customers, you talk about the sales metrics that they stay on and want to renew, but what is it that makes that happen? What is the platform that once they're in, they can't get out? What's the sticky flypaper?
That's a great, there's a couple things you've mentioned is what is our, what makes us sticky? What makes us part of the furniture of every marketing department? And we believe that's combining insights with actionability. That idea of actually doing the outreach so that so you're dealing as a marketer now instead of with a list of leads or a list of accounts, you're now dealing with intelligence that tells you who to call, why to call them, when to call them, not just what right company. And so that level of precision, that you can think of it as a dossier on every opportunity, is unique. What makes us better than our competitors is probably a little bit less sexy, is we're better at execution. And the evidence of that is all around the efficiencies of sales, the efficiencies of capital. It's very difficult to build these models. There is a finite number of data scientists that can do it. There's a lot of really smart people in the world, and so that's a difficult hook to hang our hat on, because I would hate to say, hey, our technology is the best. We think it is, but there's always somebody smarter than ourselves that are out there. It cuts down to, I think what we do really well is we execute really well. We learn very quickly, and we're just tenacious as hell. I mean, that's what it comes down to, is our unfair advantage. We failed 5 times. This is 5 pivots to get to this point, and we stuck together. I wear that as a badge of honor. In most Bay Area companies, they'd blow apart on pivot number 2 or 3.
I think, one of the things that you're going to have to be careful of is that you are very crisp in your differentiation between the sincere quality and the blow away accuracy of what you're doing compared to a dime a dozen cheap internet scrapers.
Yep.
You can't risk falling into that trap, because there's thousands of those out there. Yeah, 10 cents, 50 cents, whatever. We'll get you piles of stuff, and and so I'm actually glad you're using your own technology to find your own customers, because you're going to have to find those fairly advanced early adopters that are doing their own marketing well enough. And actually, I think Discover.org, it was interesting seeing them on there. I was a little puzzled for a while, because I've used Discover.org very, very successfully and cut sales cycles in half, because they give you this data that's so accurate. If I were them, I'd be terrified of you. I'd be trying to buy you and put you out of business if I were them, because you completely eradicate their model. I mean, they do all this in a very expensive manual way, and if you can get to those same answers, but the thing is that there's a certain kind of company that gets that they need that data, and it's not everybody.
That's actually gets to the point of one of our 5 failures. We launched the alpha version of this product. And the idea is, let's do SaaS, because we all like predictable revenue. It's a good model. Let's price it and democratize AI. Let's do it for $200 a user per month. That was the dumbest thing I've ever thought in my life. It's embarrassing to mention that.
Spot model.
We went from 0 to 15,000 monthly recurring revenue in about 2 months, and then it plummeted. Because we were undifferentiated from the 1,001 web scrapers. Now, we don't even touch a customer unless we think they're spending at least $500,000 a year, and that we can capture at least $200,000 a year. Our first order is a minimum of $10,000.
Good.
Much different conversation.
Different game.
What we're proud of is we're able to close those deals in 35 days at a 40% close rate from first touch, not from proposal. Once it gets into proposal, it's north of 80% close. But from the first time, if Seth comes to us and comes into one of our funnels and we identify him, and somebody in the audience had an experience talking to one of my salespeople today, Jason, who's one of our sales development reps in Chicago. That person is in danger of spending $15,000 with us in the next 35 days, and that danger is actually 40%. So I hope you bring your wallet.
Question I'd like to ask. One of the things I think the presentation does really well is it describes sort of the benefit to your end customer.
Right.
We do it faster, better, more accurately. If I'm a VC, one of the things I'm interested in is, and a couple of you have talked about this, the stickiness of the platform and the technology that's underneath the platform. Is this a platform? You mentioned patents. Is it defensible? And since we're in a top shelf IPR law firm conference room, I think we ought to ask a question. Other than delighting your customers, is there a technology side of this that appeals to the investors?
So yeah, there's a couple parts to your question. One is how sticky. That's the bet on LeadCrunch 360, our software as a service platform, is that becomes the extension of the marketer's brain. So unlike other AI technologies, we're very good at what's called interpretability, that we can expose what the machine is learning in a way that a human can understand it. And that's actually a pretty big deal. And the idea is that we're creating a platform of collaboration where the human and the machine can work together to create models. Now, those models can't be used by anybody other than our machine, but even better that the machine can work with all of the other outbound marketing companies, so we gather their data. So we are in the very early stages of establishing, being hardwired into those marketing departments. On the second part of the question, which is about patents, I am not a patent attorney. Our team has a lot of issued patents from their days at FICO and HNC and Global Analytics and others. Stanford ran into our patents, and that's why they started a collaboration with us, not one of our competitors. So I don't know. I mean, I think that gets really into, I'm not sure how to have a conversation about patent defensibility because I'm not a patent attorney. We would defer to our attorneys on that.
So I have a question for you.
Yeah, there's actually, there's a couple of questions out here.
I have one last comment on the SaaS.
Okay, let's do that, and then I'm gonna.
Sorry, okay. So I know your strategy is is this land and expand, right? So you get them on these transactions.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you're getting them to grow the transaction business, right? So it's all transactional in hopes to potentially move them over to the SaaS product.
Well, hope is not a strategy. If they stay with a transaction, that is a very robust business by itself that can grow very rapidly. We would like to be SaaS because that's a really big number. If we own the market, we're not going to own the market with transactions. We can get pretty big, as in hundreds of millions of dollars big. But to really own the market, we need to have that command and control platform, which is the extension of the marketer. The marketer can't do their job without us.
So these two products aren't necessarily going after different markets.
They're going after the exact same thing. They're actually, the subscription product is just exposing the back end of the delivery product. Yeah. It's a natural extension. All we're doing is wrapping a front end to the machine learning back end and giving customers what they're asking for. The inspiration for the subscription product was one of our customers, Arctic Wolf, said, "How are you guys doing this? This is spooky. This is really good stuff. Can you show us how it works?" So we started doing PowerPoints to expose the back end, where we'd say, "Hey, data science team, put something together, print out what the machine's doing, put it into a PowerPoint, put it into some ugly looking graphs and hand it to the customer." They were so happy with it, they said, "We want this as a platform."
I have two comments.
Let me just do a quick public service announcement here. There's some questions starting to show up out in the audience, and I'm told, because this is my first time as a moderator, in about 10 minutes we're going to start taking questions there. So first we want to let the panelists kind of finish their Q&A, and then we'll open this up to the audience, and we've got some microphone runners. So stay tuned, we're almost there.
I have a quick comment on what they were just talking about, if I could just add that
Yes,
first.
please.
Is just that, from both an investor standpoint and in terms of stickiness of customers, I think the SaaS is such the way to go because,
Absolutely.
As you're selling these the way you're doing it now, from an investor perspective, that's like I was talking about before, a good business, right? But it's not necessarily as defensible an advantage. But if you get, the key point with SaaS to me is you've got users at these companies that become used to using your platform, and there's some expertise that they feel that they've developed, and they're intimidated by the thought of switching to anything else. And that's when you truly now own that client. It becomes very difficult for them to replace you. And if you could do integrations with other platforms of the client, it becomes very difficult for them to replace you. So the more kind of tendrils of web you can get in there that are hard for them to rip out, both human and machine, that's where the SaaS will really drive. And investors value that astronomically compared to the person-to-person sale.
I've just spent every ounce of energy in my body to prevent interrupting you because I agree with you so much. That's exactly it. And so we're building, use of funds for our A round will be Salesforce App Store. That's a $500,000 to $1 million number just to do the rollout, do the marketing around it. Marketo. We see 5,000 MarTech platforms that are overfunded that don't work unless they have intelligence. And we are the intelligence engine for all of them. So that's exactly the direction we want to go. It's exciting. But we need an A round to do that. We're not going to do that bootstrapping into that. That's going to be more development than we need.
Maybe one of the things that can help you with the A round is to give more of a flavor of what that platform will look like.
And that's exactly why we're doing a bridge note now, is to get to that A round. So, yeah.
I just want to make two comments that kind of address your key struggle, which is raising capital. One is hiring. Have you ever considered, potentially looking outside of the United States, or looking at, say, different countries for talent? Is that even on the board with you? Like, one example I'll give you too, just for a footnote, is I'm not sure if you're familiar with a company called ServiceMax.
Yeah.
David Yonam was the CEO. They had their whole engineering team in Bangalore or something like that. So that could be something to address as a way where you have, as a company, it seems you have a bottleneck in terms of you just can't get as many talented engineers in the door, and that's what's holding you back from building this product that we're describing that has a defensible moat. So that's just a comment. I'm not sure if we needed to discuss that. But the second thing I wanted to discuss is unit metrics are really important, especially when you're going out and you're raising money. And when you have a CAC to LTV ratio of 1 to 2.5, that's extremely, extremely good. And if speaking with venture capitalists and really, explaining why this is an investable business is a challenge right now. Have you ever thought about just raising your prices, where you can take that 1 to 2.5 ratio, take it up to 3 or something like that, just by raising prices on? Because I guess
Those are good questions, and we have thought about it. What we really like about what we're doing now is we're stealing existing budget away from existing spend, that we don't have to change any buying behavior, and we just deliver magic for the same price.
Like if you're cheaper than Discover or the same price, and can do better.
We just price it the same. We just, what do you spend on IDG or Ziff Davis last month? We'll take that away from them, and give us 10 grand and we'll prove it to you. And next month, we just won Microsoft.
But it's just crack. I mean, it's totally crack.
It's crack. They can't get enough of it. So monkeying with pricing is something we'd like to do when we have more navigation room financially. In other words, that may really impact our growth rates if we dramatically increase the price. Remember, we've gone from $200 a month to $20,000, and it actually got better. I think at some point it will get worse, and I don't know whether that's at 30 or 40 or 50,000, but that's the type of experimentation I think would be more comfortable when we have more runway in the bank.
I think 20 is a good one. I have this running joke, and this has been true for years. If you're in marketing, everything costs $25,000. I don't care if it's an outsourced white paper, if it's an event, you name it, it's $25,000. An ad, it's $25,000. So there's your price point right there.
Yeah.
Stay in that window, and they're going oh yeah, everything else costs $25,000.
Because 25,001 requires approval from a higher authority.
It's been true for the longest time.
I think there could be an opportunity, though. I'll just repeat it again, because as you speak and as you go through the company, I would even invest in your company. It has a strong team. You have really strong clients. You have really strong initial traction very, very quickly. But I'm still just not seeing where the real problems are. Like, hiring is a problem that can be solved. Raising capital can easily be solved with a business that looks this good on paper. And so I'm just wondering if there's something I'm just not seeing, and if that's not the case, again, I would just challenge you in terms of pricing. If it is this good, where people literally on that graph, you have basically all your competitors kind of listed as they all suck and we're just the best all the way over here, if that truly is the case, you should price your product as such. And that's just my personal opinion, but I guess I'm having a hard time really figuring out what are the true, what keeps you up at night? What are the 3 things that you as a CEO, when you think about, if this happens to my business, we're not going to be able to, get to the A round, or to me, this presentation has felt like a great sales presentation. I'm still just trying to figure out where is the area of your business that really is the weakness, and that you're really looking to solve. And it sounds like it's recruiting, which is easily solved in my mind, and raising capital is also really easily solved in my mind because of the numbers that you're putting up.
Well, the raising the capital is what keeps me up most because I've not done it before, and maybe I've gotten better at presentations. Maybe this is the evolution of a lot of
I
failure.
think you've done great. Like you've built a phenomenal business very, very quickly.
Let's be grateful that I didn't do this presentation 6 months ago. Then maybe maybe that's the lesson learned. But
I appreciate the redesign too. Your presentation looks much better than the one I saw.
well, I listen. We did hire a new designer after our conversation. We would like to. That's a separate yes.
Yeah, I'll
Let's
share
have-
with you.
But in terms, like for instance, the way we approach funding is we make sure that there's always at least 2 people involved in the call, and so that I always have my assistant Raj taking notes, and my partner and I are always there because we really want to show it as a team. One of the investors that we went to, we said, look, we just opened at the end of on October 31st, we opened a $2 million bridge note at a $16 million cap. 10% discount, and we have about $500,000 signed up. Well, not deposited yet, but we've identified that much in the first about a week or about 2 weeks. One of the investors said, "Hey, we're not interested in that. We want to do the A round. We want to do 10 million, but you got to move to New York."
Oh, have you looked at Chicago for these guys? Have you looked at Chicago?
We have not.
Look at Chicago investors. A good friend of mine works at one of the big agencies there, and so I've been really paying attention. And a lot of this kind of marketing tech is there, and there's a much bigger market and a lot more. In fact, compared to us, I think we're like 10 times bigger over the last quarter. We really look at, because that kind of seems like you've already got a footprint there, so it doesn't take you a third place over to New York. So if you've already got your footprint in Chicago, check out Chicago.
All right, we got a thumbs up. We're
One
doing
last
that.
I
comment.
think we're at that point.
Can I have one more comment?
Where
Sorry.
we're going out to the audience.
When we look at these other companies that you were comparing yourself to, just in different categories, and just this evolution of sales automation, Salesforce, they really created. They have Dreamforce, Marketo has. I'm not sure what it's called, but I wonder if there's an opportunity here from a marketing standpoint. This is where brand and really kind of bringing 20 CMOs into a room from really high-end companies to discuss kind of the problems they're discussing. I'm sure that it'd almost be like a venting session where they're just discussing all their frustrations. That could be a great way to not only acquire new customers, but potentially even get partnerships with companies. And there's a similar company called People.ai. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it.
I know. I'm familiar with them.
So they hold these like bi-monthly events in San Francisco where they bring in all of their sales managers because it's a sales management AI platform. And it's been a great way for them to acquire customers. And then some of their biggest customers also came on as strategic investors. So that might be something to think about if you have CMOs in a room that are just super upset and your solution solves all their problems.
Maybe what we do is go to the CMOs in Chicago and bring them out in February to play golf.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
That was
So I want to turn this over to our audience here. And so why don't I start with you? If what I'll do, since there's no microphone, just if you'll speak out your question, I'll repeat it for the camera.
So a statement, question, and prediction.
Okay.
Statement, I'm an industrial psychologist, personality, work,
For the audience and for the camera, our person's an industrial psychologist, personality test work, but you're not crazy about Myers-Briggs, I thought. I'm going to use. And the next part.
Well, that's actually.
Let me repeat it here, so for the people who are watching and on their TV at home. Why are you giving code tests to data scientists when data scientists aren't necessarily good coders?
Right. So we don't give code tests to data scientists because data scientists don't code in our company. So we have a data science test for data scientists. That's the code test. That's for developers. Only for developers.
Okay.
Now, the data scientists, we've been really lucky. It's been fairly easy to find AI engineers for a couple reasons. One, we are guest lecturers at the best schools in the country. Two, we're one of the few AI companies in San Diego, and we actually have a really good school for machine learning here in San Diego. So for people that want to stay in San Diego, we're a great choice. And three, the legacy of what our science team has built before they came to this company, they've got a lot of credibility. So data science is never easy to recruit for, but I think it's easier for us than others. For example, I know of 4 people on our team that have all been given offers by Google, and they've all turned them down. They'd rather work with us because of the culture, the commitment, the community, than to go make 4 or 5 times more at Google. Now they're betting their equity is going to be worth something one day, which is, again, is the difference between a San Diego company and a Bay Area company. Bay Area company, there's a little bit of a cynicism about whether the equity is ever going to turn into anything. Whereas, you know, right now we've got believers.
Okay. We've got another question in the back here. Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, you always need capital if you're growing fast.
Yeah.
Well, from your lips to God's ears, may that be true. So,
All right, we've got one more here.
Yep, right over here.
Right, go ahead.
yes, sir.
So one comment on recruiting, like why don't, I come from digital agency and stuff.
Hold the microphone up a little bit.
Sorry.
Thank-
You're not telling your story online, so putting together some simple videos, throw $5,000 at the problem. You can make some videos by a cheap agency, put together a career page, tell your story. The talent doesn't want to move here, but you just negated that conversation because if you can exit, you can do that. But running video ads is great for recruiting.
Great.
And doing that. That's just a comment on that.
Yeah, those Googlers, those guys that turned down Google, get them on video. All they have to do is record it on their phone and get that on the recruiting
I
page.
recruit salespeople
Totally.
nationwide, commission only, to do that all day long.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yep.
But my questions were a couple about the math. So you have an 85% retention rate, but a 2.2 month average engagement. So that's scary. Second thing is the SaaS really just bulk buying, or is it actually SaaS? Because if I give you $10,000 a month for a pilot and then I give you $30,000 for a year, does that include leads, or is that just the platform? Because then it seems like it's actually just bulk lead buying as opposed to SaaS.
Right.
Does the $30,000 include leads, or is that $30,000 user
2 different
system?
products. One, you can bulk buy for a year, and that's LeadCrunch campaign.
Okay.
LeadCrunch 360 is SaaS.
Okay.
Doesn't include no leads included.
That's
in
just
lead-
software.
That's just software. Right. And then in terms of the math, 85% is the retention rate for companies within 90 days. It goes up over time because some companies take longer than 90 days to buy. We believe the optimal number is 90% because we want to always be pushing the boundary and having a couple of failures in this early stage where we push it a little bit too far. The more important is the revenue expansion of 230%. You can think of that as negative churn. They come in for 10, they're spending 23,000 the next order within 90 days. That's a good number.
And what's the margin on, like if you spend $200,000 on leads, how much of that's cost to get the lead? Or
So there's cost of customer acquisition is different than margin. So our gross margins, right now we've not spent any energy optimizing gross margins. We focus more on growth. And so we have some initiatives to increase our gross margins. Our gross margins right now are about 54%. We believe we'll get those up into about the 70% number.
okay, and then one other thing on the math. So just a minute ago, you said we have 400,000 leads at $40, so that would be $16 million a month. So where did that
No,
number?
the other way around. So we're going to do 400,000
Leads.
in revenue
Oh.
in 1 month. And the average price per lead that we deliver is about $40.
Got it. Okay, that makes more sense.
So I think that's around 10,000.
I thought you said 400,000 leads at $40. I was like,
That'd be awesome. Let's do that.
yeah.
Yeah, that's where we want to get. Then we have product market fit, right? We're doing those kind of numbers. We got product market fit.
So let's see if we've got another question. I see one here and I see one here. Let's start with you.
A comment on the videos. Amateur videos can be pretty darn good. We had an employee make an amazing recruiting video. So you might just ask your team if anybody does video on the side.
Yeah,
I would totally do that. I mean, and all the guys doing the SDR recruiting, Reich was doing a wonderful job with examples of, I'm the manager, I'm the peer, and then you're like, oh yeah, I want to work with that dude. They're pretty cool.
Well, we actually, we have a little stakeholder update that we send out that we always do, like a little 1 or 2 minute video where we kind of get everybody together and say something fun. And so I'll send that to you.
On the website too.
But we should put it on the website, that's right.
So we got a question here?
Just with regards to recruiting, disclaimer, I own a recruiting firm, but one of the things that I hear you talking about how you are getting your clients and what you're doing, your sales methodology, your strategy is excellent and is exactly what you need to do for your recruiting. So if you applied a lot of that strategy, you've got dedicated people, you're using 3 ways by bringing yourself in and the AI experts, you're putting a lot of energy into high-end clients. It's the same strategy we use for recruiting high-end people. But the key is that you've got somebody who manages that cycle all the way along the way.
Yeah.
The biggest challenge we see in high-growth companies is you don't have somebody managing the cycle, and what happens is you've got hot candidates who are really excited, and you do an amazing 3-way call with them, and then nobody calls them back in 2 weeks. And you're like, oh my gosh, 2 weeks went by? Really? 2 weeks went by? Or somebody else is at their doorstep kind of, we really need you to make a decision. And they're like, well, I kind of really like that guy I talked to. So it's no different. You've got to have a salesperson, recruiter, whether it's an internal or an external, that's dedicated to that search process, and they bring you in. So you're still making decision. You're still making sure you've got that cultural fit. But one, they're making sure they're only the good people. So there's some selection in advance. But they're managing. That's a really critical thing. It's that hand holding. It's that the amount of conversations we have with the candidates are hours of time, understanding their family, understanding their motivations, understanding what it's going to take for them to make a move decision. So we're gathering all that intelligence that your marketing tool does to help you close the deal. Same idea.
I am guilty as charged. That's what I lose sleep over as well. It's like, we should talk after this. We need that.
And I have a psychometric assessment tool you'll love.
Okay, great. Yeah.
One more minute here, while she's moving on, any comments in the chat?
So I have a question. So your customer acquisition costs seem fairly high, 13,000 you said?
Not at this growth rate. So if we slowed down the growth rate, the customer acquisition costs would go down.
Are you using your technology to get these customers?
Yeah, and sales development reps, and our technology and our people.
Okay.
How long does it normally take to close a deal?
35 days from first call.
I have a quick question. So when you brought up the margin, that's when I was kind of like, whoa. So that kind of puts you in typically like a service margin of a business. So like what would your plans be to get that in? Because typically you want to be above 70, 80 is good. Public SaaS companies are typically in the 70 to 85 range. When my company was growing at this rate, we were in the 90% range.
Wow.
We were like bootstrapped and in college and stuff, so we were buying like IKEA desks. But what would your plans be? Because that could be another solution to raising additional capital. Because when I heard that margin number, I was like, maybe that could be an indicator of what your business is, which is a service business, which has a lower multiple on evaluation, as opposed to a SaaS business. So what would your strategy be to get the margin up? And I guess I'm also wondering, why is it so low?
Yeah, you nailed you're absolutely 100% right.
And it's not a bad thing. I'm just.
It is what it is. It's a fact, right? We started this business, we said we're not going to build any automation on the back end other than the data science modeling until we know how to process it. So our customer success team, for instance, is not automated. So when we do customer success, I call it the clickety-click-click, where we're actually moving data between a bunch of different systems in a way that is less than optimal. And so that will probably give us a 5 or 6% improvement in automating that function. Second thing is, when we're early on, our cost of data and infrastructure relative to our revenue is quite high. So there's some scaling benefits as we get more customers. Our proportional spend on infrastructure goes down. So it's expensive to run some of the models we have. For example, Amazon gave us a $100,000 credit to build our platform into Amazon. We didn't have to pay it back. When we were testing our models, we were burning $30,000 a month on Amazon, basically in electrical charges. These are just, this is our electricity bill from Amazon was just to run the models because they're computationally expensive. Now we've optimized that. Now instead of spending $30,000 a month, we're probably down to $6,000 a month. Probably is not going to get any
Got a
lower. than that.
microgrid company I probably should introduce you to. A microgrid.
Yeah, it sounds like a cryptocurrency currency mining thing, but it's not. Yes, sir. But yeah, we've got plans on how to improve those margins. We go into those
I have
details.
one last question. Do you have a CFO already hired?
We have a VP. Our first customer quit to join us as a VP of finance, and we very much want him to grow into being a CFO. We have gotten mentors for him that are CFOs that have taken companies public. And so we've got that person being groomed into that role. He has a cost accounting background with Price Waterhouse and is an accounting background, but he's never been a CFO before.
Might need an interim one.
Okay, I have a three-part question. The first part is there's a certain amount of understanding of a company's persona that needs to go into your data model, I would assume. So your ideal customer is somebody who's already pretty good at defining what that persona is. So question number one is, say you get a customer that's really bad at that doesn't have a good handle on who their persona is and what that buyer, potential buyer looks like. What happens? What does the curve look like? How effective the model is.
Actually, we shortcut that because we think most people are terrible at describing personas.
Okay.
Everybody thinks they're good at persona marketing because they learned it in their MBA program, but they get in the real world, they've never had a tool to do attribute analysis. And so our patents and our technology are really what we call vector-based marketing.
Okay.
So we generate high-dimensional vectors on everything. And so all we need from you is a list of your best customers. We don't need any theory. We don't need to know what the personas are. We'll figure that on our own. Just give us a list of who your best customers are.
Okay, that answers the second and third part of my question. Great.
There's one more here, and I think
he's tried several times.
Yes, so,
And so is he. But ladies first.
no, right next to you. That is how.
No.
Now, we're getting close to the end here, so I think we've got time for you, and then I think we're at the end of the day.
I'm just wondering, what sort of commitment do you require from your customers and they require from you before they actually, hire you, your service or your product? And the reason I ask is I'm wondering if you've ever considered if your product truly is measurably better or your service is truly measurably better than others. Offering free trials in order to hook customers before they have to make too much of a commitment.
We will never do that again. We did free trials, and we get the worst customers you can imagine.
They don't come back.
Yeah.
Well, they're cheap.
Feedback
You
from,
need the high-end guys.
We don't want cheap customers. We want people that spend $1 million a year with us, and you don't give $1 million a year product away for free.
And so how do you get to that $1 million before they've even seen any proof that it's going to work the way
Start
you
with $10,000, and then we build our way up.
Okay.
But if you're not going to put skin in the game, neither am I.
Yeah, good.
it's also kind of weird in the enterprise space where if it's cheap, like most C-level people will just stay away from it.
Yeah.
Absolutely
It's
true.
like $200 a month, but you can like triple their sales and their conversion rates. They're like, no, it's vaporware. It's weird. That's why I say raise your prices. Make it more expensive.
I'm going to buy you breakfast, lunch, dinner, or coffee to get more ideas. I think we will.
All right, so this is the last one.
All right, I'll try to make it quick so we can handle two.
She really wants to ask
I'll
a
make
question
this.
like
I'll
that.
try to make this quick. So you have this great flexible platform for targeting leads, but I'm curious. You said you've deployed it to help your own company find its own leads and customers. Building upon her question, we know recruitment methods and techniques are very similar to finding customers methods, techniques. So why not use LeadCrunch to find leads for recruitment? And at the same time, finding investor techniques are also similar to finding customers. It's always a match of the fit of the investor, what the investor is interested, what their expertise are, where they think there's going to be, profit for them. Why not use LeadCrunch to find investors? And then when you've applied LeadCrunch to your own customer growth and looking at your new customer acquisition trend, it looked pretty linear, but based on what you've been telling us, I was expecting like super high growth and very, like exponential new customer acquisition trends, but I didn't see that, so.
Yeah, it is exponential. If you zoom in on a curve close enough in just 1 year, it looks linear. But we were going, we've averaged 22% per month growth, which is what, about 400% per year. It ain't linear. So that's the second part of the question. The first part of the question is one of the hard parts of what we do is how we stitch data together. And so stitching data together for business-to-business demand generation or customer creation is stitching different data together than doing recruiting or finding investors. So I think one of the great dangers of early stage startups is they lose focus because they try to solve too many problems. Our philosophy, orientation, and culture is really to pick one thing and do that really, really well until we have to do something else to support it. And we are monomaniacally focused on one thing, and that is customer creation. And if we do that well, the money should come and the recruits should come. But if we started switching around, then we have different competitors, we have different markets, we have different customers, and pretty soon no one knows what they're coming to work for.
So I know there's one comment here. I'm going to let this lady who's had her hand up for a bit answer, and then that's it, because they won't let me come back if I go over long.
Quick shameless plug. As a mentor volunteer at EvoNexus, I just want to mention how EvoNexus is proud that you guys are a graduate of the program.
Yeah, so we are huge fans. We wouldn't be alive were not for EvoNexus. In particular, I'd like to call a couple people out at EvoNexus that we think are just awesome. First is Kim Davis King, who I met when I was in grad school. Yeah, I'm kind of old to be in grad school, but I did it. Kim met me when I was in grad school at UCSD and got us into an incubator at UCSD called StartR, which feeds into the EvoNexus incubator. And the EvoNexus incubator, we ran into, Kim gave us help, and also a gentleman by the name of Marco Thompson, and I'll do anything for Marco. In fact, we gave shares. They didn't ask for it. Evo doesn't ask for anything. It's part of, they should ask for more. They are on our cap table. We really are grateful to EvoNexus, and we would encourage any young startup that young meaning the age of the startup, not the people in the startup, because that wouldn't apply to me, but we think that Evo is probably the single best incubator anywhere that I've seen. And I've been around Y Combinator and Techstars and 500 startups. The care and love you get in Evo is a little different than anywhere else, and so we're a big fan of Evo, and hopefully when we have an exit, they'll make a lot of money.
I promised Seth it'd be short, but that didn't account for your time.
No.
So.
Okay.
So what I'm hearing is that your problems relate to raising money, finding talent, and what was the third thing that I was thinking about?
Staying in San Diego.
Staying in San Diego, thank you. And so when I think about those three things, what's missing is a story, right? So from a marketing perspective, and you said that you're not pretty, you're customer centric. So thinking about those things, how you tell your story, how you're branding yourself to the world, and being, whether you call yourself a marketing company or in the marketing space, obviously you understand how important and what's changing in the functional area of marketing.
Right.
And so, that comes back to, one, what was the decision behind pushing marketing off so long? But then two, kind of along those same lines, who does the sales messaging, right? So there's a lot that marketing does, and how have you gotten as far as you have, without a marketing department? From, if you look at a customer, if you look at your CAC, is it possible to bring that figure down with a marketing department that is supporting your sales team?
Yeah, good question. Well, we've gotten as far as we have because the technology works and we have a very dedicated, hardworking team. We did not do marketing because we're not marketers, and we focused on our strengths, not our weaknesses. And we've run out on, we need to bring in fresh talent that knows how to market. We really want to bring in people that every new hire should be stronger than any of the existing hires. So when we look at the marketing community, we said, hey, this is not a fast hire, it's not a quick hire. We're looking for somebody that has rocket ship experience in the driver's seat of a rocket ship. One of the people that we're very trying to recruit is somebody that's grown 3 companies from near startup to 100 million a year in revenue and has had 4 major exits. Now, he is a limited partner in one of the venture funds. That's how we met him. Can we recruit him into our tiny little startup? I'm going to try. But we really want to get marketing in for all the right reasons that you said. But you can't, if you're starting a company, you don't focus on what you don't do well. You focus on what you do well. We're really good at math, we're really good at engineering, and we're really good at sales. And sales and marketing to us are very different skills.
All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed that program as much as I did. Let's give Owen, Steph, Andrew, UConn, Kathleen, and Jason a deserved round of applause.